I've always suffered from sleep paralysis by Muffinzes. For as long as I can remember, I've been suffering from sleep paralysis, paired with vivid hallucinations. When I was younger, it was always just the darkness in the corner of my room rushing towards me with the feeling of some sort of presence inside, and I would always jolt back into control of my body just before it could reach me. As I got older, it evolved into a strange creature that would crawl along my ceiling, whispering to me in a language that I didn't understand. Recently, however, it's changed again. For about the past month or so, whenever I would open my eyes during sleep paralysis, I would see lights floating in the door of my room. Despite me keeping my door closed and all of the lights in my house being off. I normally live with my grandparents, but they've been in Europe for the past month, leaving me alone to watch the house. When my eyes would adjust, I could see a silhouette of a man standing across the room from me, just staring. Every night, he seemed to get a couple of steps closer. Now, I've been dealing with sleep paralysis for years, so it never does more than startle me anymore. And I always immediately get to work wiggling my fingers and toes to wake my body up. This hallucination was strange, though. Where any other creature I ever saw would begin to rush towards me as I began to regain control. This one always seemed to get scared and run, slamming the door shut just as I managed to sit up. I never really thought anything of it, and have just been going back to sleep as soon as he leaves. That is, until last night. One night, I got a text from my girlfriend asking if she could stay with me for the night. She's been really stressed with work, and whenever she's had a particularly rough day or week, she usually sleeps with me. Non-sexually, you pervs. Just to help her relax. And my grandparents have always been understanding, and I always find it helpful to have somebody nearby to wake me up if I need it. So I, of course, accepted her offer. We ended up sitting on the couch together playing weeb games for a few hours before going to bed. I won't go into too much detail, but it was a relaxing night. Perfect to get ruined by the events that followed shortly after. That night, it was the same as always for me. I woke up unable to move with some creepy guy staring at me, who had now made his way to being right in front of me, almost close enough to touch. I sighed internally and began working on my fingers when I noticed something chilling. My girlfriend suddenly caught her breath in her throat and held it, as though trying to hide herself, and she pushed her face deeper into my chest. I looked down with my eyes to see her looking fearfully at the man in front of us, the man who only I should be able to see. I started to wrestle with myself to get control of anything, even just a hand, and the man immediately turned and ran away, slamming the door just in time for me to jump to my feet. "Who was that?" my girlfriend said. Her words rung in my head for a moment when I realized that she had seen him too. He wasn't just some hallucination. The lights were off on the other side of the door, but I could hear a quiet creaking noise. I opened the door and looked up to see the string from the attic door swinging slightly, as though it had just been disturbed. I didn't doubt that I may have pushed it with the air rushing when I threw the door open, but I wasn't going to take the chance and stay in that house for the rest of the night without knowing. I reached up to pull it down when I felt an immediate sense of dread, and I ran to the kitchen to grab our biggest kitchen knife. My girlfriend followed worriedly behind me, trying to stop me, insisting that instead we call the cops. I stopped searching the cabinets when I realized that it wasn't there, and my girlfriend confirmed my fear when she said she saw him holding it. I grabbed the second biggest knife and threw on the vest from my younger cousin's laser tag game. Sure, it wasn't actually body armor, but it did have some pretty thick plastic that might protect me from a knife, maybe. I pulled down the attic door as my girlfriend pulled on my arm to get me to leave the house. I lightly pulled away from her as I stared up at the dark hole in the ceiling. The ladder had unfortunately broken long ago, so I had to just hoist myself up without it, leaving me vulnerable to any crazy, knife-wielding guy that might be up there, as well as to the woman desperately grasping at my feet. As soon as my legs swung over the edge of the floor, I pulled out my knife and a big flashlight and got ready for a fight. But when I shone it around the room, I didn't see anything moving at all. I almost started to relax when I heard a creak behind me and turned to be tackled to the floor. I was barely able to keep the man from stabbing the knife straight down into me. I'm definitely not weak, but I stand only 5'4", and this man was easily over 6 feet. I managed to knee him in the crotch. It was a low blow, but a necessary one, and I used the opening to smash the size of his head with the heavy flashlight, knocking him unconscious. I shoved him off of me just in time to hear the police sirens. My girlfriend must have called as soon as I went up, and she let them in so that they could help me haul the man who had attacked me down to the floor. The man who I now recognized. When I was younger, there was a boy 6 months older than me who lived next door. When we were little, we were best friends. He was a bit weird, but so was everyone at that time, so I never thought anything of it. Once we started getting older, he became less and less the sort of person that I wanted to be associated with. He was getting into fights left and right, and it was rare that we would get home without him trying to hide weed in my house. All of my friends and just about all of the school started to hate him because he treated everyone terrible, including me. I gave him second chances, third chances, fourth chances, 177th chances. But one day he decided to shove me into a locker and try to pick a fight. And I told him right then and there that I wasn't talking to him ever again. He was devastated, and he got exactly what he deserved. It was towards the end of his senior year of high school, my junior year, and his parents were planning to move to New Hampshire, just as soon as the school year ended. So I was almost certain that I would never have to deal with him again, but I was wrong. About 2 months ago, I had received a text from my old friend. It was simple, not too commanding. "Hey, Muffinzes, I'm back in town to visit some old friends, and you're on that list. So let me know and maybe we can hang out," it said. It honestly sounded genuine, but I wasn't too interested in talking to him anymore. I'd given him too many chances. That and the text that he had sent to my real friends didn't sound quite so friendly, saying bad things about me, like how I would get it. So I decided to just leave the text unopened, and I hoped that he would leave me be. For a while, I had thought it worked, but now it looks like I was wrong. Lying in front of me, just starting to wake up, was the same old friend. My kitchen knife, still grasped firmly in his hand as the cops tried to wrestle it away from him and get him in handcuffs. They eventually restrained him and brought him to one of the cars outside as he shouted insults and swore that he would eventually get me for betraying him. The police interviewed us, but neither I nor my girlfriend had anything to say. I had been convinced that it was all just a hallucination, while she had only just been there for one night. They wrapped up their questions and left us to sleep. Not that either of us could. It was a relatively short trial that found him guilty, and I haven't seen him since. That was 2 weeks ago. But now the fear that had gripped me that night has returned to me in full. I saw on the news that there was a prisoner that escaped from the exact prison he had been sent to. So I'm writing this from under my bed with my knife in my hand, because I can almost swear I just heard the door start to creak open once again.